Have you ever felt the quiet, persistent feeling of being watched? Not by a person in a crowd, but by something vast, silent, and systematic. An invisible presence that tracks, measures, and records, humming just beneath the surface of our daily lives. Tonight, we tell the story of a man who felt that unblinking eye upon him and decided he wanted something simple, a moment of privacy. His search for a small pocket of silence, a way to disappear from the map, was a quiet and personal act. He never imagined that his simple tool, a small black box bought online, would accidentally brush up against the complex, invisible machinery that keeps our modern world in motion. This is the story of that collision. A story not of malice, but of consequence. It is a journey into the unseen world of signals that surround us, and a quiet exploration of the delicate balance between the freedom to be left alone and the systems we all depend on. It is the story of the red phone 50, and the day a simple search for silence revealed a crack in the foundation of our world. Chapter 1: An Invisible Ocean. In our modern world, we move through an invisible ocean. It is an ocean not of water, but of information. A silent, ceaseless tide of signals that ebbs and flows through our cities, our homes, and our very lives. We almost never feel its current, yet we steer by its guidance every single day. This unseen realm is a tapestry woven from countless threads of energy. The Wi-Fi that connects our devices, the radio waves that carry voices through the air, and the cellular data that paints the world onto the small screens in our hands. They are the quiet architects of our age, working so perfectly in the background that we often forget they are there at all. But among all these marvels, one stands apart in its quiet, global significance. It is a whisper from the void, a faint and steady heartbeat that originates not from a tower down the street, but from a constellation of satellites orbiting miles above the surface of the Earth. This is the Global Positioning System, a utility as fundamental to our time as electricity or running water, yet one so subtle it feels like magic. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the edge of a vast, still lake at twilight. You toss a single stone into the water, and a perfect ripple expands outward. Now imagine 3 more stones tossed from different points around the shore, each sending its own ripple across the surface. Where those 4 ripples intersect, at that one unique point in space and time, is where you stand. This, in essence, is how GPS works. High above, in the silent, sunlit emptiness of space, a network of more than 30 satellites is in constant motion, each one a stone tossed into the cosmic pond. Every satellite holds within it an atomic clock, a timekeeping instrument of almost unimaginable precision, accurate to within a single second over millions of years. Each of these orbital clocks broadcasts a continuous, simple signal. It is little more than a timestamp, a declaration of the exact moment the signal left the satellite, repeated over and over again. This faint whisper travels at the speed of light, racing down through the atmosphere to the surface below. On the ground, a small receiver in your phone, your car, or the cockpit of an airplane listens for these whispers. It doesn't listen for just one, but for at least 4. When the first signal arrives, the receiver notes the time. It compares the timestamp in the signal to its own internal clock and calculates the difference. This tiny fraction of a second is the time it took for the signal to travel from the satellite to the receiver. Because the signal travels at the speed of light, a constant, this time measurement is also a precise measurement of distance. The receiver now knows it is a specific number of miles away from that first satellite, existing somewhere on the surface of a vast, invisible sphere with the satellite at its center. But this isn't enough to pinpoint a location. So, it listens for a second satellite, and a third, and a fourth. Each signal provides another measurement of distance, another invisible sphere. And just like the ripples on the lake, there is only one point on the surface of the Earth where all 4 of those spheres can possibly intersect. At that single, unambiguous point, the receiver knows exactly where it is. It is a feat of physics and engineering so profound that it has reshaped our relationship with the world itself. The paper map has become a relic, the sextant a museum piece. We no longer navigate by the stars in the night sky, but by the artificial stars we have placed there ourselves. This constant, reliable knowledge of our position has woven itself deeply into the fabric of our society. It guides the tractors that plow our fields with centimeter-level accuracy, ensuring that every seed is planted in its optimal location. It coordinates the vast supply chains that move goods across continents, tracking container ships on the open ocean and delivery trucks on the final mile to our doorsteps. It is the silent partner to emergency services, allowing dispatchers to send an ambulance to the precise location of a call without a moment's hesitation. The financial markets rely on its impeccable timing to synchronize transactions across the globe, while power grids use it to manage the flow of electricity with perfect harmony. We live and breathe within this system, placing in it an almost unspoken and absolute trust. Nowhere is this trust more apparent than in the realm of aviation. For decades, pilots navigated the skies using a network of ground-based radio beacons, a system that was reliable but offered limited pathways. Planes had to fly from beacon to beacon, creating crowded highways in the sky. But the advent of GPS began to change everything. Suddenly, a plane's position could be known with pinpoint accuracy, anywhere in the world, at any time. This opened up the possibility of more direct routes, saving fuel and time, and allowing for a far more efficient use of airspace. And as the technology matured, a new, even more precise system began to emerge at major airports around the world. It was called the Ground-Based Augmentation System, a remarkable innovation designed to perfect the already impressive capabilities of GPS. This system places a set of highly sensitive receivers at a known, fixed location on an airport's grounds. These receivers listen to the same satellite signals that an approaching aircraft would, but because their exact position is already known down to the millimeter, they can detect tiny errors in the GPS signals. These slight inaccuracies, caused by atmospheric distortions or minor drifts in a satellite's orbit, are imperceptible for everyday use but can be meaningful in the final moments of a flight. The ground station calculates these tiny errors in real time, and then broadcasts a correction signal to any aircraft in the vicinity. A plane on final approach receives this correction, applies it to its own GPS calculations, and is suddenly able to determine its position with a precision that is nothing short of breathtaking. It allows for landings in weather conditions that would have once closed an airport entirely, and it creates what are known as precision approaches, curved, intricate pathways that guide a plane down to the runway with unparalleled safety and efficiency. This system is not just an improvement, it is a revolution, the next great leap in the century-old story of human flight. It represents the pinnacle of our trust in this invisible technology, a commitment to a future guided by the steady, reliable whispers from space. Yet, there is a quiet truth that underlies all great systems of order. The more complex and interconnected a system becomes, the more delicate its balance. Our dependence on this invisible ocean of signals has grown so gradually, so naturally, that we rarely stop to consider its nature. The GPS signal itself, after traveling over 12,000 miles from its source, arrives at the Earth's surface with astonishingly little power. It is a whisper in a hurricane, a signal so faint that it is easily lost in the noise of the world. It is a system built on a foundation of precision, but also one of profound and inherent fragility. We have constructed our modern world upon its steady hum, assuming it will always be there, as constant as the sunrise. But the intricate dance of satellites and receivers, of atomic clocks and atmospheric calculations, is a silent performance that requires perfect conditions to succeed. The integrity of this system is paramount, protected by international agreements and federal laws, its frequencies guarded as a precious natural resource. For we have learned that while these signals can build a world of unprecedented efficiency and safety, their absence or their disruption can reveal just how thin the veneer of our modern certainty truly is. The silence left behind can be a powerful and unsettling thing, a reminder that the systems we rely on most are often the ones we understand the least. Chapter 2. The Watchers. Late into the evening, long after the city has quieted to a gentle hum, a light remains on in a suburban office park. Inside, a dispatcher sits before a vast digital map, a silent sentinel watching over a scattered flock. On the screen, dozens of small icons, each representing a company vehicle, trace faint lines across the grid of streets, their movements rendered in a smooth, hypnotic flow. This is the nerve center of a modern logistics operation, a place where the physical world of steel and asphalt is translated into the serene, orderly language of data. From this single room, the precise location of every truck, every piece of heavy machinery, is known at every moment. It is a system born not of a desire for control, but of a quest for a far more elusive goal: perfect efficiency. In the world of large-scale construction and engineering, where timelines are measured in millions of dollars and delays can cascade into financial ruin, knowledge is the most valuable commodity. And the most fundamental piece of knowledge is the answer to a simple question: where is everything right now? The technology that makes this possible is known as a fleet management system, a sophisticated evolution of the same GPS principles that guide our personal cars. Each company vehicle is fitted with a small, discrete transponder. This device, often no larger than a deck of cards, contains a GPS receiver to determine its own location, and a cellular modem to report that information back to a central server. The result is a living map, a god's-eye view of the company's entire physical footprint, updated in real time, second by second. For the dispatchers and managers, this is a tool of immense power and subtlety. It allows them to orchestrate a complex ballet of resources with the calm precision of a conductor. Imagine a massive project, like the paving of a major highway. A fleet of dump trucks must deliver asphalt from the plant to the paving site in a continuous, unbroken chain. If one truck is delayed by traffic, the entire operation can grind to a halt. The paving machines run out of material, their crews are left standing idle, and the fresh asphalt at the plant begins to cool and harden, rendering it useless. The financial losses can accumulate with breathtaking speed, but with a fleet management system, the dispatcher sees the delay the moment it happens. They see the icon for one truck stop moving on the map, caught in an unexpected traffic jam. Instantly, they can reroute another truck, sending it on a different, clearer path to the site, ensuring the flow of material is never broken. The problem is solved before it ever truly becomes a problem. This is the promise of the system, its clear and undeniable logic. It is a tool for optimization, for smoothing out the unpredictable wrinkles of the real world. The data it collects is not limited to mere location. The transponders are wired into the vehicles themselves, monitoring a quiet symphony of mechanical data. They report on engine speed and fuel consumption, allowing the company to coach drivers on more efficient habits that can save thousands of gallons of fuel over the course of a year. They track engine idle time, identifying vehicles that are left running unnecessarily, wasting fuel and adding to emissions. They can even monitor diagnostic codes, alerting the maintenance department to a potential engine problem before it leads to a costly breakdown on the side of the road. The system also provides a crucial layer of safety and security. If a vehicle is stolen, it can be tracked and recovered within minutes. If a driver is involved in an accident in a remote location, their precise coordinates are known instantly, allowing emergency services to be dispatched without delay. It creates a digital safety net, a quiet guardian watching over the company's assets and, by extension, its employees. From a purely operational standpoint, the argument for such a system is almost unassailable. It is a rational, data-driven solution to the timeless challenges of managing a large, mobile workforce. It transforms guesswork into certainty, replacing intuition with cold, hard data. Yet, within this elegant web of logic and efficiency, a subtle and unspoken tension resides. The same data points that allow for perfect logistical harmony can also be seen through a different lens. For the employee, the driver behind the wheel, the system is not an abstract map on a distant screen. It is a constant, tangible presence. It is the small box on the dashboard, the unblinking eye that records every turn, every stop, every moment of the workday. And as this technology becomes more ingrained in the workplace, it begins to blur a delicate and ancient line, the line between oversight and surveillance. The system that knows when a truck is idling for too long also knows when a driver has taken a 15-minute coffee break instead of the prescribed 10. The The system that can optimize a delivery route can also create a perfect, unalterable record of a driver's every movement, a logbook that can be scrutinized and questioned days or weeks later. The feeling of being managed by a human supervisor is replaced by the feeling of being monitored by an infallible, dispassionate algorithm. It is a profound shift in the nature of work, a change that is often implemented with little discussion, introduced as a simple technological upgrade. This introduces a quiet human friction into the otherwise seamless machine. A driver, who may have for years enjoyed a degree of autonomy in their daily routine, suddenly finds that autonomy curtailed in subtle but significant ways. The small, unwritten freedoms of the job, the choice to take a slightly longer, more scenic route, the decision to stop for lunch at a favorite spot just a few blocks off the official path, are now quantifiable deviations, logged and recorded. The relationship of trust between employee and employer is supplemented, and sometimes replaced, by a system of verification. The company no longer has to trust that its drivers are working efficiently. It can see for itself. This transformation is not driven by malice. It is the logical endpoint of a culture that prizes data and efficiency above all else. It is the simple result of a powerful technology becoming cheap, reliable, and ubiquitous. But it raises a fundamental question, one that society is still grappling with in countless ways. When does the legitimate monitoring of company assets become the intrusive surveillance of a human being? For the driver in their cab, the vehicle is more than just an asset. It is their workspace, their office, a small bubble of personal space in which they spend a third of their day. The constant collection of data can begin to feel less like a tool for the company and more like a judgment on their own character, a silent, ever-present insinuation that they cannot be trusted to do their job without supervision. And so, within the hum of the servers and the quiet glow of the dispatcher's screen, a new dynamic is born. It is a silent, unacknowledged conflict between the desire for corporate order and the human need for privacy and autonomy. The system, designed to create a world of perfect predictability, inadvertently introduces a new and deeply unpredictable element: the quiet resistance of the individual. For some, it is a change to be accepted, another modern inconvenience to be endured. But for others, the constant digital gaze of the watchers becomes a line that cannot be crossed, an intrusion that demands a response. Chapter 3: The Red F-150. It is a Tuesday morning in August, in the year 2012. The summer sun rises over Newark, New Jersey, casting a warm, hazy glow on the sprawling industrial landscape. In a quiet residential neighborhood, a man named Gary Bojack begins his day, the familiar rituals of coffee and a quick glance at the morning news marking the steady rhythm of his routine. Soon, he steps out into the humid air and climbs into the driver's seat of his assigned company vehicle, a rugged, dependable, red Ford F-150 pickup truck. This truck is his office, his mobile command center. Gary is an engineer for Tilcon, a major construction and engineering firm that supplies the literal building blocks of the modern metropolis. They provide the crushed stone, the gravel, and the asphalt that form the foundations of bridges, the surfaces of highways, and the skeletons of skyscrapers. The George Washington Bridge, a titan of steel and stone connecting New Jersey to the heart of New York City, was paved with materials supplied by his company. It is a legacy of tangible, enduring work, and Gary is a proud and meticulous part of it. His job is not to haul stone, but to ensure the integrity of the projects themselves. He is a man of precision and detail, his days spent driving between job sites, examining progress, consulting blueprints, and solving the endless, intricate puzzles that arise when turning architectural drawings into physical reality. The red F-150 is more than just a means of transportation. It is an essential tool of his trade. Its cab is a meticulously organized space, filled with rolled-up schematics, clipboards, a hard hat resting on the passenger seat, and the faint, earthy smell of dust and drying concrete. The truck's powerful engine carries him effortlessly through the dense network of highways and city streets that make up the Newark area. His work often takes him to the periphery of the city's busiest hub, the Newark Liberty International Airport, where the constant cycle of construction and renovation means there is always a project that requires his expert eye. He navigates this world with a quiet confidence, the truck an extension of his own professional competence. He knows its dimensions, the sound of its engine, the familiar feel of the steering wheel in his hands. Gary is a man who appreciates order and values his autonomy. He is the kind of person who finds satisfaction in a job well done, in the logical progression of a project from foundation to completion. He is not a man given to grand gestures or dramatic displays. He is private, methodical, and self-reliant. He enjoys the solitude of his drives between sites, the moments of quiet contemplation as he formulates solutions to complex engineering problems. This truck, this mobile workspace, is his domain. It is a place where he is in control, where his expertise and judgment are the guiding forces. But in recent months, a new, uninvited passenger has joined him on his daily drives. It is a small, unassuming black box, mounted discreetly on the dashboard. Most of the time, it is entirely silent and still, but on its face is a tiny LED light, one that blinks with a soft, steady green pulse. It is the company's GPS tracker, the electronic eye of the fleet management system. For the dispatchers back at the office, this blinking light is a symbol of order and efficiency. It is a reassuring beacon that confirms the system is working, that Gary's truck is precisely where it is supposed to be. For Gary, however, that gentle, rhythmic pulse has begun to feel like something else entirely. At first, he barely noticed it. It was just another piece of equipment, another part of the modernizing workplace. He understood the logic behind it, the corporate reasoning for wanting to keep track of its valuable assets. He was a practical man, an engineer, and he appreciated the elegance of a well-designed system. But as the weeks turned into months, the nature of his relationship with the little black box began to change. The blinking green light, once innocuous, started to feel like the unblinking eye of a silent observer. It was a constant, subtle reminder that he was not truly alone in his truck, that his every movement was being noted, recorded, and stored on a distant server. It was a feeling that grew slowly, an undercurrent of unease that he couldn't quite shake. He would be at a job site, deep in conversation with a foreman, and in the back of his mind, he would be aware that the system knew he was there. He would stop for lunch, and the system would log the exact duration of his break. He would take a slightly different route to avoid a traffic snarl, and the system would dutifully trace his deviation from the prescribed path. There was no accusation, no overt sign of suspicion from his superiors. It was simply the persistent background knowledge that every minute of his workday was being documented with an impartial and unforgiving precision. For a man like Gary, who prided himself on his professionalism and independence, this constant passive observation began to feel like a quiet erosion of trust. It felt like a system designed on the assumption of mistrust, a technological solution to a human problem that he felt did not apply to him. He was a good employee, a reliable engineer. He did his job, and he did it well. The need for this silent, digital chaperone began to feel less like a tool for logistical optimization and more like a personal affront, a subtle but constant questioning of his integrity. The feeling was difficult to articulate, even to himself. It wasn't about wanting to hide anything. It wasn't about slacking off or visiting places he shouldn't. It was something more fundamental, more philosophical. It was about the simple human desire to be the sole author of one's own time, to be free from the gaze of an unblinking eye, however electronic or indifferent that eye might be. The red Phone 50, once his private domain, his sanctuary of thought and focus, no longer felt entirely his own. It now belonged, in part, to the watchers, to the silent keepers of the digital map. And so, the little green light continued its steady, metronomic pulse. It blinked in the bright sunlight as he drove down the New Jersey Turnpike. It cast a faint glow in the shadows of an underground parking garage. It was there when he started the engine in the cool of the morning, and it was there when he turned it off at the end of a long day. For the system, it was just a signal, a single bit of data in an ocean of information. But for Gary Bojack, it was becoming something more. It was becoming a question, a challenge, a quiet and persistent problem waiting for a solution. Chapter 4. The Unblinking Eye. The feeling begins as a subtle annoyance. a background hum of unease that is easily dismissed in the busy rhythm of the day. For Gary, the knowledge of the tracker in his truck is at first just that knowledge, a simple fact of his employment. But over time, this simple fact begins to grow, expanding from a minor detail of the job into a persistent psychological weight. It is a phenomenon that is deeply, fundamentally human. The awareness of being watched changes us. Imagine reading a book in a quiet, empty park. Your focus is entirely on the page, your posture relaxed. Now, imagine a stranger sits on the bench directly opposite you, their gaze fixed upon you, unmoving. They say nothing, do nothing, but their silent observation changes the very air around you. Suddenly, you are aware of how you are sitting, of the way you turn the page. The simple, private act of reading becomes a performance. Your focus is divided, your ease replaced by a quiet tension. The stranger's gaze is an invisible pressure, a force that alters your behavior without a single word or action. This was the subtle pressure that began to build in the cab of the red Phone 50. The GPS tracker was Gary's stranger on the bench. It was an indifferent observer, a machine merely collecting data, yet its constant presence had the same profound effect. The workday, once a series of tasks and decisions guided by his own professional judgment, now felt like a performance being recorded for an unseen audience. Every decision, no matter how small, was filtered through the quiet awareness that it was being logged. Should he stop at this particular supply store, or the one a little further down the road that he preferred? In the past, the choice was his alone, a simple matter of preference or convenience. Now, it was a data point. The system would note the deviation, the extra few minutes, the additional half-mile of travel. There was no indication that anyone was actually scrutinizing this data so closely. His boss had never mentioned his routes or the length of his stops. The system was likely just an automated tool for high-level logistics. But the human mind is not designed to operate on logical probabilities alone. The mere possibility of being watched is often as powerful as the certainty of it. The potential for scrutiny can be as inhibiting as the scrutiny itself. And so, Gary began to feel a slow, creeping sense of constraint. His autonomy, once a vast and open landscape, now felt as though it were being quietly fenced in, one data point at a time. This feeling was most acute during the quiet moments, the spaces in between the structured parts of his day. A construction project might be delayed, leaving him with an unexpected hour of free time. In the past, this was a moment of quiet reprieve, a chance to park the truck, perhaps walk down to the river to clear his head, or simply lean back in his seat and listen to the radio. It was his time, a small pocket of personal space within the workday. But with the tracker, these moments felt different. They were no longer his. They were logged as idle time, a quantifiable period of inactivity that might one day need to be explained. The simple pleasure of an unscheduled pause was replaced by the low-grade anxiety of being perceived as unproductive. He began to notice the subtle ways this awareness was changing his behavior. He found himself driving more rigidly, adhering strictly to the most efficient route suggested by the navigation system, even when his own local knowledge told him a different path might be better. He became more conscious of the time, checking his watch more frequently during his lunch break. The easy, natural rhythm of his work was being replaced by a more calculated, self-conscious cadence. He was, in a sense, optimizing his own behavior to please the silent, algorithmic observer on his dashboard. He was becoming a more perfect employee, at least on paper, but he was also becoming a less free one. The psychological weight of surveillance is that it encourages conformity. It creates an environment where the safest course of action is always the one that is most easily justifiable, the one that generates the neatest data. It discourages the small human detours and improvisations that often lead to unexpected solutions or simple moments of personal satisfaction. The system, in its quest for perfect order, inadvertently began to sand away the very qualities of independence and self-reliance that made Gary a good engineer in the first place. His discomfort was not a product of paranoia, but of a deep-seated and intuitive understanding of privacy. Privacy is not simply about having secrets to hide. It is about the freedom to be unobserved, the right to have thoughts, moments, and actions that are not recorded, analyzed, or stored. It is the space in which we can be our unedited selves, free from the pressure to perform or conform. For Gary, the cab of his truck had always been such a space. It was a place where he could think freely, hum along to the radio, or simply be quiet with his own thoughts as the landscape rolled by. The tracker had breached this sanctuary. It had turned his private workspace into a fishbowl, a transparent bubble where he was always on display. This quiet internal struggle reached a point where the simple blinking of the small green light became a source of genuine irritation. It was a constant nagging presence, a symbol of his lost autonomy. The feeling was no longer just a vague unease. It had crystallized into a clear and definite problem. The system, which he had once accepted as a practical, if slightly annoying, part of the job, now felt like an unacceptable intrusion. He was a responsible man, a law-abiding citizen, a dedicated employee, but he had reached a personal limit. The silent, unblinking eye of the tracker had stared at him for one day too many. He realized that if he wanted to reclaim that small measure of freedom, that simple feeling of being alone in his own workspace, he would have to find a way to make the eye blink. He would have to find a way to draw a curtain, however temporary, across the window. The decision was not made in a moment of anger or rebellion. It was a slow, deliberate conclusion, arrived at after months of quiet contemplation. The system was the problem. He, the engineer, would find a solution. His methodical mind, so adept at solving the logistical puzzles of his profession, now turned its focus to a new and far more personal challenge: how to disappear. Chapter 5. A Search for Silence. The search begins not in the bright light of day, but in the quiet solitude of his own home, long after the workday has ended. Bathed in the soft, artificial glow of a computer monitor, Gary Bojack embarks on a new kind of project, one guided by a personal need rather than a professional blueprint. He navigates the vast, interconnected landscape of the internet, typing a series of keywords into the search bar: disable GPS, how to block a vehicle tracker, and finally, the term that would define his path forward: signal jammer. He is entering a digital landscape that exists in the gray margins of the modern world. This is not the familiar, well-lit territory of mainstream commerce and information. It is a more obscure realm of online forums, specialty electronics websites, and communities of people who, for their own varied reasons, seek to carve out small pockets of invisibility in an increasingly transparent world. Here, the conversation is not about corporate efficiency, but about personal privacy. The products for sale are not designed for optimization, but for obfuscation. It is a world that operates on a different set of principles, a quiet, digital counterculture pushing back against the encroaching tide of total connectivity. At first, his research is tentative. He reads through technical articles and forum discussions, his engineer's mind carefully absorbing the principles at play. He learns that the GPS signals he so wishes to avoid are, by their very nature, incredibly faint. After their long journey from the orbiting satellites, they arrive at the Earth's surface as a whisper, a delicate stream of data easily drowned out by stronger, closer signals. This inherent fragility, he discovers, is their greatest vulnerability. A signal jammer, he learns, is not a sophisticated piece of spycraft that captures and decrypts these signals. It is, in fact, a far simpler and cruder instrument. It is a device designed to shout, not to listen. In the simplest terms, a GPS jammer is a small radio transmitter. When powered on, it broadcasts a flood of meaningless radio noise on the very same frequency that the GPS satellites use to communicate. It doesn't block the satellite signals, it simply overwhelms them. It creates a localized storm of static, a bubble of chaos in which the delicate whispers from space become completely unintelligible. For any GPS receiver inside this bubble, be it a vehicle tracker, a personal phone, or a sophisticated navigation system, the world goes silent. The constant reassuring stream of data that allows it to calculate its position is replaced by a wall of incomprehensible noise. The receiver is not broken, but it is effectively blind and lost, unable to find its place in the world. To Gary, this seemed like an almost elegant solution. It was a targeted approach that would not require him to physically tamper with the company's tracking device. He had no desire to damage the equipment, he simply wanted it to stop working. A jammer offered a way to do this that felt clean, temporary, and, he hoped, plausibly deniable. If the tracker suddenly went offline, it could be interpreted as a technical malfunction, a momentary loss of signal, perhaps from driving through a tunnel or a dense urban canyon. It was a subtle act of disobedience, not a destructive one. It was a way to introduce a small, controlled amount of doubt into a system of absolute certainty. As he delves deeper, he discovers that these devices are surprisingly common and accessible. They are marketed under a variety of names, often with a wink and a nod to their intended and often illegal purpose. They are pitched as personal privacy devices or location protection tools. The websites that sell them are a study in careful ambiguity, often including disclaimers about local laws and regulations, a tacit acknowledgement that their products occupy a legally precarious space. The devices themselves come in all shapes and sizes, from powerful, multi-antenna units designed to clear a large area, to tiny, discrete jammers that can be carried in a pocket. It is this latter category that catches Gary's eye. He finds a model that seems perfectly suited to his needs. It is a small, black, cylindrical device, designed to plug directly into a car's cigarette lighter, the same port one might use to charge a phone. It is advertised as being low-powered, its range limited to just a few feet around the device itself, enough to silence the tracker in his truck. But, he presumes, not powerful enough to cause any wider disruption. It is simple, self-contained, and requires no technical installation. And, most importantly, it is inexpensive, costing less than $100. It feels less like a piece of illicit technology and more like a simple consumer gadget, a plug-and-play solution to his very specific problem. The decision to make the purchase is a quiet and deliberate one. There is a moment of hesitation as his cursor hovers over the Buy Now button. He is a man who has spent his entire life following rules, respecting systems, and working within established structures. This is a small, but significant, step into a world outside of those rules. It is a conscious decision to defy a company policy, to interfere with a system he is expected to comply with. But the accumulated weight of the constant observation, the feeling of his personal space being steadily eroded, ultimately outweighs his natural inclination to conform. This is not an act of rebellion for its own sake. It is, in his mind, an act of restoration, a necessary step to reclaim a small but essential piece of his own autonomy. He completes the transaction, entering his payment information into a secure, if slightly anonymous-looking, online form. He uses his personal credit card and his home address. He is not a man accustomed to the clandestine arts of hiding his identity. In his mind, he is not a criminal. He is simply a private citizen purchasing a piece of electronics. He is solving a problem with a tool, just as he would on any given day at work. The order is confirmed. A shipping notification is promised within 24 hours. After closing the browser, he sits back in his chair, the glow of the monitor reflecting in the quiet darkness of the room. A sense of calm resolve settles over him. He has taken a decisive step. He has found a potential solution, a small black box that promises a return to the quiet solitude he once enjoyed in his mobile office. He does not consider the broader implications. He does not think about the Federal Communications Commission or the intricate web of regulations that govern the invisible ocean of the airwaves. His focus is narrow, his goal specific. He simply wants the blinking green light on his dashboard to stop meaning anything. He wants to drive to his job sites and be, for the first time in a long time, completely and truly alone. The search is over. Now, all he has to do is wait. Chapter 6. The Little Black Box. A few days later, a small, unmarked package arrives. It is a simple brown cardboard box, light in the hand, its surface bearing nothing more than a shipping label. Inside, nestled in a bed of white foam, lies the device, the little black box that holds the promise of silence. It is smaller than he imagined, its simple plastic casing feeling almost underwhelming for a tool that can bend the rules of modern technology. There are no logos, no brand names, just a single, unassuming plug at one end and a small, translucent nub at the other, where an indicator light will soon glow. Gary holds it in the palm of his hand, turning it over, examining its construction. It feels like any other generic piece of electronics, a simple car accessory one might find in a cluttered bin at a gas station. It is a thing of profound simplicity, designed for a single, focused purpose. This is the key, the tool he has sought to solve his problem. He carries it out to the red Phone 50, the truck parked in its usual spot in his driveway. The morning is still and quiet, the air holding the promise of another hot summer day. This small, mundane moment, he feels, is the beginning of a significant change. He slides into the driver's seat, the familiar space of the truck's cab feeling different now, charged with a quiet anticipation. He takes the small black device and firmly pushes its plug into the truck's cigarette lighter. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, as he turns the key in the ignition and the truck's electrical system comes to life, the translucent nub on the end of the jammer illuminates with a soft, red glow. It is powered on. It is active. The quiet hunt for privacy has led to this, a small red light burning with a steady, silent fire in the periphery of his vision. A question hangs in the still air of the cab. Is it working? There is no immediate, dramatic confirmation. The world outside the windshield looks exactly the same. The truck's engine hums with its familiar, steady rhythm. The only way to know for sure is to test it, to venture out into the world and see if he has, in fact, become a ghost. He pulls the truck out of his driveway and begins his morning commute, his eyes occasionally flicking down to the soft, red glow of the device. It is a small but constant presence, a secret companion on his journey. He drives for several minutes, the initial sense of anticipation giving way to a more complex feeling. He feels a quiet sense of satisfaction, the feeling of a problem solver who has successfully implemented a solution. But there is also a faint, new undercurrent of caution, the awareness that he is now actively, consciously breaking a rule. This is no longer a theoretical exercise. It is a real-world action with real, if unknown, consequences. To verify that the jammer is effective, he reaches for his personal smartphone. He opens the mapping application, a tool he uses dozens of times a day to navigate the complex web of New Jersey's roads. He watches as the application attempts to find his location. On the screen, the familiar, pulsing blue dot that represents his position in the world is gone. In its place is a wide, uncertain circle, the application's best guess as to his general vicinity. It cannot find a signal. It cannot pinpoint his location. He zooms in, but the map remains static, the blue dot frozen at the last known location, his home address. He is, for all intents and purposes, invisible. A slow smile spreads across his face. It works. The little black box, this simple, inexpensive piece of plastic and circuitry, is doing precisely what it promised. It is shouting into the void, creating a bubble of electronic silence that has effectively severed his connection to the global positioning network. For the first time in months, he is driving his company truck, and no one, and no system, knows exactly where he is. The feeling is one of profound and unexpected liberation. The invisible weight of the constant observation, a pressure he had grown so accustomed to that he almost forgot it was there, is suddenly lifted. The air in the cab feels lighter. The drive feels less like a monitored task and more like a simple journey. He continues on his route to the first job site of the day, the small red light of the jammer his only companion. He finds himself noticing things he hadn't before: the architecture of a building, the pattern of the clouds in the sky. His mind, previously occupied by the low-grade hum of being watched, is now free to wander, to focus entirely on the world around him and the engineering challenges that await him. The truck, once again, feels like his own private space. He has drawn the curtain. He has silenced the unblinking eye. It is a quiet, deeply personal victory, a successful act of reclaiming his own small corner of the world. He spends the day moving from site to site, the jammer glowing faithfully in the console. He conducts his meetings, examines blueprints, and consults with foremen, his work as meticulous and professional as ever. His newfound privacy does not change the quality of his work. It simply changes the quality of his experience. It restores a sense of ease and autonomy that he hadn't realized he had so sorely missed. The day passes in a smooth, productive rhythm, free from the quiet psychological friction of the tracker. As the afternoon wears on, his work takes him, as it often does, to a site near the sprawling perimeter of Newark Liberty International Airport. He parks the truck and goes about his business, the jammer still active, still broadcasting its small, localized storm of radio static. He is a man focused on his job, on the tangible world of concrete and steel in front of him. He is entirely unaware that the invisible bubble of silence he has created around his truck is beginning to expand, to radiate outward, its effects no longer confined to the small black box on his dashboard. His personal act of defiance, designed to solve a private problem, is about to intersect with a system of immense and critical importance. The quiet victory he feels is, for now, his alone. But the consequences of that victory are beginning to ripple outward, touching a world he cannot see, a world of intricate flight paths and precision landings, a world that relies on the very silence he has just broken with his own electronic noise. Chapter 7. A New Kind of Flight. High above the sprawling cities and quiet suburbs, another world is in constant motion. It is a world of immense, graceful machines, a realm of swept-back wings and powerful engines, tracing invisible pathways through the sky. The choreography of modern air travel is a spectacle of precision and order, a complex and beautiful dance performed on a global scale, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And at the heart of this dance, in the final, critical moments of every flight, is a relentless pursuit of perfection, a quest to make the act of returning to the Earth as safe and predictable as the rising of the Sunday. It is in this pursuit that a new, revolutionary system was born, a system designed to guide these titans of the sky to the runway with a precision that was once the stuff of science fiction. This system is known as the Ground-Based Augmentation System, or GBAS. Its name is technical, almost mundane, yet its function is anything but. It is a technology that takes the already remarkable accuracy of the global positioning system and refines it, sharpens it, elevating it to a level of integrity required for the most demanding task in aviation, the final approach and landing. At major airports like Newark Liberty International, this system was being implemented under a proprietary name, Honeywell's SmartPath, a title that perfectly captures its elegant purpose. It was designed to create a smarter, more flexible, and safer path from the sky to the ground. To understand its brilliance, one must first appreciate the subtle imperfections of the standard GPS. The signals that travel from the orbiting satellites are miracles of engineering, but their long journey through the Earth's atmosphere is not without its challenges. The ionosphere, a layer of charged particles high above the planet, can slightly bend and delay the signals. Minor, infinitesimal drifts in a satellite's predicted orbit can introduce tiny errors. For a car's navigation system, an inaccuracy of a few feet is completely unnoticeable. But for a 700,000-pound airliner descending through clouds and fog, a few feet can be the difference between a perfect touchdown and a serious incident. For decades, aviation had relied on a robust network of ground-based radio beacons to guide planes. These systems, known as the Instrument Landing System, or ILS, created a narrow, fixed radio beam that acted as a virtual highway in the sky, leading directly to the runway. They were, and still are, incredibly reliable, but they are also rigid. Each runway requires its own expensive ILS installation, and each installation can only provide a single, straight-in approach path. This creates bottlenecks, forcing all approaching aircraft to line up and follow the same narrow corridor, one by one. The GBAS was designed to break free from these physical constraints. Instead of a fixed radio beam, it uses the ubiquitous GPS as its foundation. The system begins with a set of highly sensitive GPS receivers placed at precisely surveyed, immovable locations around the airport. These receivers act as a trusted reference point. They listen to the signals from the very same satellites that an approaching aircraft is using. But because their own position is known down to the last millimeter, they can perform a constant, real-time audit of the satellite network's accuracy. They can see the tiny delays caused by atmospheric interference and the slight orbital drifts. They measure these minuscule errors, and then, in a stroke of genius, they broadcast this information as a correction signal. This signal, a localized, highly accurate health report for the entire GPS constellation, is sent out from a transmitter at the airport. On board an approaching aircraft, a special receiver picks up this correction signal. The plane's flight management computer takes this new data and applies it to its own GPS calculations. The result is a navigation solution of almost unbelievable purity. The plane's position is suddenly known not just within a few feet, but within a few inches. This is what is known as augmented GPS. This newfound precision unlocks a world of possibilities. With GBAS, a single ground station can provide guidance for every runway at the airport, both for arrivals and departures. More importantly, it can create multiple, complex approach paths. Instead of a single, straight-in highway, pilots can be given curved, intricate routes that guide the plane around noise-sensitive residential areas or steer them clear of other air traffic. It allows for steeper, more efficient descents, which save fuel and reduce engine noise. It is a system that promises not only to enhance safety, but also to increase the capacity of crowded airports, allowing more planes to land more quickly and with greater efficiency. At Newark, the implementation of the SmartPath system was a point of pride, a symbol of the airport's commitment to cutting-edge technology. It represented the future of aviation, a move away from the rigid infrastructure of the 20th century and into the more fluid, data-driven world of the 21st. Technicians and air traffic controllers were trained on its intricacies, its screens displaying the smooth, perfect trajectory of aircraft on final approach. Pilots, in turn, were learning to trust its guidance, to follow its precise, computer-generated cues as they descended toward the runway. The system operated with a quiet, reliable hum, its data flowing in a seamless, invisible loop. From the satellites to the ground station, from the ground station to the approaching aircraft, the information was pure, the guidance unerring. It was a closed, protected system, operating on a specific, federally regulated frequency reserved exclusively for aviation navigation. It was a digital sanctuary, designed to be impervious to the noise and interference of the outside world. This was the foundation of its trustworthiness, the very basis of the confidence that pilots and controllers placed in it every single day. The system was a marvel of order and integrity. It was built to be infallible, but what no one had fully accounted for was the possibility of a new kind of noise, an unforeseen and unintentional disruption from a source so small, so simple, that it was almost beneath consideration. A disturbance not from a powerful adversary, but from the quiet electronic whisper of a single, unassuming device. Chapter 8. The Ghost in the Signal. It is Friday, August 3rd, 2012. Inside the air traffic control tower at Newark Liberty International Airport, the morning unfolds with its usual, carefully managed rhythm. It is a place of profound focus, a calm center in a storm of constant motion. From this vantage point, high above the runways, the controllers guide a ceaseless procession of aircraft, their voices steady and measured, their actions precise and deliberate. On their screens, the digital world of aviation is rendered in clean lines and simple symbols, each representing a plane filled with hundreds of souls, all trusting in the flawless order of the system. But then, something flickers on a display, an anomaly, a ghost in the signal that disrupts the perfect digital calm. The first sign of trouble is subtle, easily mistaken for a momentary glitch. On the screen that displays the feed from the ground-based augmentation system, the clean solid line representing an approaching aircraft's path wavers for a fraction of a second. A technician notes the flicker, his eyes narrowing slightly. These systems are designed for unwavering stability. A flicker, however brief, is an unexpected deviation, a question mark in a world that allows for none. He continues to watch, his attention now fully focused on the stream of data. A few moments later, it happens again, this time more pronounced. The data stream, normally a river of perfect, logical information, is now showing signs of corruption. It is as if a clean, clear voice has suddenly been beset by a wave of static. For the air traffic controllers, the first alert is an automated one. A small amber warning light illuminates on their console, indicating an integrity issue with the GBAS. The system, in its own digital language, is reporting that it can no longer guarantee the perfect accuracy of its guidance. It has detected an intruder in its private, protected frequency, a source of noise that is polluting the pristine correction signal it broadcasts to approaching planes. The controllers, trained for countless contingencies, respond with immediate, professional calm. There is no panic, only the swift execution of established protocol. The pilot of the aircraft on final approach, who had been following the precise guidance of the Smart Path system, receives a notification in the cockpit. The virtual pathway on his screen is now flagged as unreliable. Instantly, he and the controllers revert to the older, more traditional instrument landing system. The transition is seamless, a well-rehearsed maneuver. The aircraft continues its descent, now guided by the steady, familiar radio beam of the ILS. From the passenger's perspective, nothing has changed. The plane lands smoothly, its wheels touching the runway with a gentle puff of smoke, just as it would have on any other day. But in the tower, the situation is anything but normal. The GBAS is a cornerstone of the airport's future, a multi-million-dollar investment in safety and efficiency. And right now, it is effectively offline. Technicians begin a rapid, methodical diagnostic process. They check the ground station, the receivers, the transmitters. Every component of the system is reporting perfect health. The hardware is functioning flawlessly. The problem is not internal, it is external. Something nearby is broadcasting a powerful, interfering signal on the system's protected frequency. It is an act of electronic intrusion, a violation of the carefully ordered world of the airwaves. The question now becomes, what is it, and where is it coming from? The technicians and engineers in the tower can see the effects of the interference, but not its source. On their spectrum analyzers, screens that visualize the radio frequency environment, they can see the ghost. It is a spike of raw, chaotic energy, a jagged peak of noise that is overwhelming the delicate GBAS signal. It is a persistent, powerful, and entirely anonymous transmission. The ghost is there, but it has no name, no face, no location. Meanwhile, just a few miles from the airport, Gary Bojack parks his red Phone 50 near a construction site. The small red light of his jammer continues to glow softly in the center console. He is an engineer at work, his mind occupied with blueprints, material specifications, and project timelines. He is in his own world, a tangible world of physical structures and measurable progress. He is completely, blissfully unaware of the invisible chaos he is creating in a world just beyond his perception. The bubble of electronic silence he has generated for his own privacy is not as contained as he believes. It is radiating outward, a powerful, disruptive wave that is washing over the sensitive electronic ears of the airport's most advanced navigation system. His simple, low-cost device, designed to do nothing more than shout down the faint whispers of GPS satellites, is operating with an indiscriminate power. The frequency it floods with noise is not just the frequency used by the global positioning system. It is a band of the spectrum, a small slice of the invisible ocean. And within that same slice, that same protected digital space, lies the vital communications link for the GBAS. His jammer, in its crude and powerful simplicity, is not just silencing his GPS tracker, it is silencing the vital conversation between the airport and its approaching aircraft. Back in the tower, the amber warning light remains lit. Every few minutes, another plane on approach must be transitioned away from the GBAS, reverting to the older, less efficient landing system. The airport continues to function, its operations slowed but not halted. The calm professionalism of the controllers ensures that safety is never compromised. But a sense of deep, professional concern begins to grow. This is not a fleeting, momentary glitch. The interference is stable, continuous. Someone, or something, is out there, blanketing a critical piece of aviation infrastructure with a powerful, disruptive signal. The incident is escalated. This is no longer just a technical problem for the airport to solve. It is a federal issue. the integrity of the national airspace is a matter of national security. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, is formally alerted to the ongoing signal disruption at Newark. They now have a serious and deeply puzzling problem on their hands. An unknown entity is actively jamming a critical piece of navigation technology at one of the nation's busiest airports. The intent is unknown. The source is a mystery. The ghost in the signal is no longer just a technical anomaly. It has become a federal case. Chapter 9. The Unseen Hunt. The message travels through secure channels, a digital ripple spreading outward from the point of disturbance at Newark. The formal alert from the Federal Aviation Administration lands on the desk of another, more specialized agency, a group of quiet professionals who are the designated guardians of the invisible ocean. This is the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, the entity responsible for policing the entire electromagnetic spectrum, from the faint whispers of distant galaxies to the powerful broadcasts of our modern world. And so, the hunt begins. The case file is assigned to an FCC enforcement agent based in New York City. He is a man who operates in a world that most people are not even aware exists. He is not a typical law enforcement officer. He does not carry a weapon or wear a uniform. His tools are not handcuffs and squad cars, but spectrum analyzers, portable antennas, and handheld direction-finding units. He is a specialist in a unique and challenging field of radio forensics, a detective whose crime scenes are formless and whose evidence is composed of nothing more than invisible waves of energy. His job is to find the ghosts in the machine, to track down the sources of illicit signals that disrupt the orderly, regulated flow of our national airwaves. He has seen it all in his years of service. He has hunted down pirate radio stations broadcasting from apartment building rooftops, their illegal signals interfering with licensed broadcasters. He has located faulty neon signs and industrial heating equipment that inadvertently spewed radio noise, disrupting sensitive communications for miles around. He has traced the signals of clandestine operators and unsanctioned transmitters of every conceivable kind. Each case is a unique puzzle, a methodical search for a needle in an invisible haystack. But the alert from Newark is different. It is an order of magnitude more serious than the typical interference complaint. This is not a case of a fuzzy radio station or a garbled cell phone call. This is a direct and ongoing disruption of a critical aviation safety system at one of the nation's most important airports. The agent understands the gravity of the situation with a calm, professional clarity. The source could be anything. It could be a piece of faulty, unshielded electronic equipment. It could be a powerful, malfunctioning transmitter at a nearby industrial facility. Or it could be something more deliberate, an intentional act of signal jamming. In this early stage, all possibilities must be considered. The motive is irrelevant. The first and only priority is to find the source and silence it. He begins his preparation with a practiced, unhurried efficiency. He gathers his equipment, checking the batteries and calibrating the sensitive instruments. His most important tool is the handheld direction-finding device. It is a sophisticated piece of technology, but its principle is elegantly simple. It is, in essence, a highly sensitive and directional radio receiver. It is designed to listen for a specific frequency and determine the direction from which that signal is strongest. By taking readings from multiple locations, an investigator can triangulate the signal's point of origin, drawing invisible lines on a map that converge on a single, precise location. It is the modern equivalent of a bloodhound, a tool that can follow a scent that has no smell, no taste, no physical form. With his gear stowed, he gets into his unmarked vehicle and begins the 40-minute drive from his office in New York City to Newark, New Jersey. As he merges into the flow of traffic, crossing the bridge that spans the Hudson River, he is already at work. He powers on his equipment, the small screens casting a soft, technical glow in the cab of his car. He tunes the receiver to the specific, protected frequency used by the ground-based augmentation system. Immediately, the needle on his signal strength meter jumps. The ghost is not just at the airport. Its presence can be felt for miles around. The signal is strong, clear, and chaotic. The unmistakable signature of a powerful jammer. The drive itself becomes a part of the investigation. He is not just traveling to a destination, he is moving through the field of interference, gathering data with every mile he covers. He holds the directional antenna, sweeping it slowly from side to side, watching the needle on his meter rise and fall. He is mapping the signal's contours in his mind, getting a feel for its shape and power. The signal appears to be stable, originating from a fixed point, not moving. This is a crucial piece of information. It suggests the source is not a passing vehicle, but something stationary. The agent makes a mental note. The object of his hunt is likely parked, or is a piece of fixed equipment. As he approaches the airport, the signal grows exponentially stronger. The needle on his meter is now pinned at its maximum reading. He is getting close. He exits the main highway and begins to navigate the network of service roads and industrial parks that ring the perimeter of the sprawling airport complex. This is the most challenging phase of the hunt. In this dense, built-up environment, radio signals can bounce off buildings, creating confusing echoes and false readings. It is a world of electronic mirrors, and it requires a skilled and patient hand to distinguish the true signal from its many reflections. He drives slowly, methodically, his full attention on the readouts of his equipment. He is a man entirely absorbed in his task, a craftsman at work. The roar of jets taking off and landing nearby is just background noise. The hustle and bustle of the surrounding businesses is a world away. He is focused on the invisible, on the unseen hunt for a signal that has no right to exist. He is following an ethereal thread through a complex, modern labyrinth, a thread that will lead him, he hopes, to the precise physical object that is broadcasting this wave of silent, electronic chaos. The ghost has been wreaking havoc for hours, but its time of anonymity is rapidly coming to an end. The hunter is closing in. Chapter 10: Triangulation. The agent finds a quiet spot on a service road, the airport's main terminals visible in the distance. He steps out of his car into the warm, humid air of the August afternoon, the roar of a departing jet momentarily overwhelming the senses. He raises the antenna of his handheld direction-finding unit, a strange, almost skeletal-looking device, and begins a slow, 360-degree sweep of the horizon, his movements patient and deliberate. This is where the hunt becomes an art, a delicate process of listening to the invisible world. The needle on his device is pegged, indicating the signal is overwhelmingly strong. He is deep within the ghost's territory. The first step is to reduce the sensitivity of his receiver, to deliberately deafen it to all but the most powerful, direct waves. It is the electronic equivalent of squinting in bright sunlight, a technique to filter out the noise and focus on the true source. He adjusts a small dial, and the needle drops, becoming responsive once again. He resumes his slow, careful sweep. The needle climbs as the antenna points eastward, toward a dense cluster of low-slung warehouses and commercial buildings. It falls as he points it away. He has his first line of bearing, an invisible vector, pointing him toward the heart of the disturbance. He gets back into his car and drives, not quickly, but with a focused intent, following that invisible line. He travels a few hundred yards and then stops again, repeating the process. He steps out, raises the antenna, and takes another reading. This time, the line of bearing is slightly different, pointing now from a new angle, but toward the same general area. In his mind, a map is forming, not of roads and buildings, but of pure energy. Two invisible lines are now drawn on that map, and where they cross is the likely location of his target. This is the simple, timeless principle of triangulation. He continues this methodical dance, driving a short distance, stopping, and taking a reading. Each new measurement refines the location, the invisible lines converging on an ever smaller patch of the sprawling industrial park. The area is a hive of mundane activity. Delivery trucks rumble in and out of loading bays, employees take short breaks in the shade of their buildings, and the general commerce of a Friday afternoon unfolds, entirely unaware of the unseen hunt that is taking place in its midst. The source of a major disruption at one of the world's busiest airports is hidden somewhere in this picture of absolute normalcy. The agent's equipment now leads him off the main service road and into a quieter side street, lined with small businesses and contractor yards. The signal is becoming intensely powerful now, so strong that he must reduce the sensitivity of his receiver again and again. He is very close. The feeling is not one of excitement, but of quiet, professional focus. This is the final, most delicate stage of the search. He knows from experience that, as he gets closer, the signals can become more chaotic, bouncing off the metal sides of buildings and creating a confusing hall of electronic mirrors. He decides to continue the final approach on foot. He parks his car and proceeds down the street, the direction-finding unit held out in front of him like a divining rod. He sweeps it back and forth, his steps slow and measured. The needle on the device is now his entire world. He passes a plumbing supply company, the signal wavering but holding steady. He passes an auto repair shop, the needle climbing higher. The ghost is just ahead. The buildings on this street are simple, functional structures, their parking lots filled with work vans and pickup trucks. The signal is now so powerful, so unambiguous, that it seems to be radiating from the very air around him. But his training allows him to see through the noise. He makes one final minute adjustment to his receiver's sensitivity, filtering out all but the absolute strongest, most direct signal path. And then, he has it. The needle on his device swings hard and stays there, pointing with an unwavering certainty, not at a building, not at a piece of industrial equipment, but at a single vehicle parked amongst a dozen others. It is a red Ford F-150 pickup truck. The agent stops, standing perfectly still on the quiet sidewalk. He lowers his device. There is no doubt. The torrent of radio noise, the electronic storm that has been plaguing Newark Airport for hours, is originating from inside that truck. He takes a moment to observe. The truck is unassuming, its paint slightly faded from the sun, the logo of a construction firm, Tilcon, visible on its door. There is a man sitting in the driver's seat, his head bent down as if he were looking at paperwork. The scene is one of profound, almost surreal contrast. On one hand, there is the image of immense disruption, the air traffic control tower on high alert, pilots being rerouted, and a multi-million-dollar navigation system rendered useless. On the other hand, there is this simple, quiet picture. An ordinary work truck, parked on an ordinary street, with an ordinary man inside, seemingly on his lunch break. The ghost in the signal, the source of all this high-level concern, is not a sophisticated piece of military hardware or a complex industrial machine. It is something small, something personal, something hidden within the mundane shell of that red pickup truck. The unseen hunt is over. The invisible has been made visible, the formless given a specific time and place. The agent's methodical process, his patient following of an ethereal thread, has led him to this exact spot. Now, the nature of his work must change. The radio forensic investigator must now become a federal agent conducting a field interview. The hunt for the signal is complete. The question of the person, the reason, the intent is about to begin. He takes a deep breath and begins his slow, deliberate walk toward the driver's side door of the red Ford F-150. Chapter 11. A quiet conversation. The agent approaches the driver's side window of the red truck, his steps slow and measured. Inside, he sees the man, Gary Bojack, looking down at a clipboard, a pen in his hand, a picture of quiet, professional focus. This is the source of the disturbance, not a saboteur or a criminal mastermind, but an ordinary engineer, seemingly unaware of the invisible disruption radiating from his vehicle. The agent taps gently on the glass. Gary looks up, his expression one of mild, polite surprise. He sees a man in a simple polo shirt and slacks, holding what looks like a small, official badge. He rolls down the window, the quiet hum of the truck's air conditioning giving way to the sounds of the street. The agent's voice is calm, professional, and devoid of any accusation. He introduces himself as an agent with the Federal Communications Commission. He asks if this is his truck. Gary, still showing no sign of alarm, confirms that it is a company vehicle that he drives for work. He asks for Gary's name, and Gary provides it without hesitation. The preliminaries are calm, routine. Then, the agent's line of questioning shifts, moving from the mundane to the specific. He asks a question that seems, at first, to come from an entirely different world. He asks Gary if he is using any kind of device that might be interfering with radio frequencies. For a moment, Gary is simply confused. The question is so far outside the context of his workday, of his entire life, that it doesn't immediately register. He is an engineer who deals in concrete and steel, not invisible waves of energy. The agent, seeing the genuine confusion on Gary's face, clarifies his question. He asks, more directly, if he is using a signal jammer, and in that instant, everything clicks into place. A wave of dawning realization washes over Gary. The little black box, the red light glowing in his console, his personal private solution to his personal private problem. He had been so focused on its intended effect, the silencing of his GPS tracker, that he had never once considered the possibility of unintended collateral effects. The thought that his small device could be powerful enough to reach beyond the confines of his own truck had simply never occurred to him. His expression shifts from confusion to a look of deep, sudden concern. He is not a man accustomed to breaking the law, and the presence of a federal agent at his window, asking about his secret device, is a development for which he is entirely unprepared. There is no attempt at denial, no thought of deception. His reaction is one of immediate, almost instinctive, cooperation. He answers the agent's question honestly. Yes, he says, he is. He explains that he bought it online to disable the GPS tracker in his company truck, that he had grown uncomfortable with the constant monitoring. His explanation is simple, direct, and entirely truthful. He was not trying to cause any wider problem. He was just trying to secure a small measure of privacy. The agent listens patiently, his expression neutral. He has heard countless explanations and excuses in his line of work. He can tell the difference between practiced deception and genuine, unscripted honesty. He senses no malice in Gary's confession, only a profound and unfortunate lack of awareness. The motive, however, is a secondary concern. His primary mission is to stop the interference. He asks Gary to please turn the device off. Gary nods immediately. He reaches over to the center console, his hand closing around the small, black, cylindrical jammer. He pulls it firmly from the cigarette lighter socket. The small, red indicator light on its end extinguishes instantly. The device is now just an inert piece of plastic, its silent electronic shouting brought to an end. In that exact moment, miles away in the air traffic control tower at Newark Airport, the ghost vanishes. The jagged spike of noise on the spectrum analyzers disappears as quickly as it had arrived. The amber warning light on the controller's consoles blinks off. The data stream from the ground-based augmentation system, once corrupted and chaotic, now runs clean and pure. The system reports that its integrity is restored. It is fully operational. The quiet, simple act of unplugging a small device in a pickup truck has restored order to a multi-million-dollar piece of critical aviation infrastructure. Of course, Gary knows none of this. He only knows that he has done what the federal agent asked. The agent confirms the result on his own handheld device. He watches as the needle on his signal strength meter drops to 0. The offending transmission is gone. The unseen hunt has officially concluded. He thanks Gary for his cooperation. The conversation that follows is a quiet, methodical process of information gathering. The agent asks Gary where he purchased the jammer. Gary, still fully cooperative, describes the website, the simple online transaction. He offers to give the device to the agent, holding it out as a piece of evidence he is more than willing to surrender. The agent accepts it, placing it carefully into a shielded evidence bag. He takes down Gary's personal information, his address, his phone number, and the name of his employer, Tilcon. He explains, in a calm and factual tone, the seriousness of the situation. He informs Gary that the use of such a device is illegal under federal law, and that its interference with an aviation navigation system is a particularly grave offense. For Gary, the full weight of his actions is beginning to dawn on him. This is no longer a simple matter of breaking a company policy. His quiet act of digital disobedience has crossed a line into a far more serious realm. He had seen the jammer as a simple, harmless tool. He now understands that he was in possession of something that the federal government considers to be a significant threat. The conversation concludes with the agent informing Gary that the FCC would be in touch regarding the violation. With that, the agent gives a final, professional nod and walks back to his car. Gary sits alone in the cab of his truck, the silence now feeling heavy and unfamiliar. The space where the jammer had been, the empty cigarette lighter socket, seems like a gaping hole. The feeling of liberation he had enjoyed for the past few hours has evaporated, replaced by a cold, growing sense of dread. He looks out the windshield at the ordinary street, at the other work trucks and the quiet warehouses. Everything looks the same, but for him, the entire world has shifted on its axis. He, the meticulous engineer, the man who solves problems, has just become the source of a very, very large one. His search for a small zone of privacy has inadvertently made him the object of a federal investigation, the quiet beginning of a series of consequences that he is only now beginning to comprehend. Chapter 12. The Fallout. For Gary, the consequences of his quiet conversation arrive with a swift and startling finality. The invisible ripples he had sent out into the world now return to him as a tidal wave, washing away the familiar shores of his professional life. The fallout begins not with a formal letter or a legal summons, but with a simple telephone call. He is back at his desk, the events of the afternoon still replaying in his mind in a continuous, disquieting loop. The quiet authority of the federal agent, the surrender of the small black box, the dawning realization of the trouble he was in, it all felt surreal, like a scene from a movie he had stumbled into by accident. He is trying to focus on his work, to lose himself in the familiar, comforting logic of blueprints and calculations. When his phone rings, it is his supervisor. The tone of his boss's voice is one he has never heard before. It is not angry, but it is cold, distant, and unambiguously serious. He is being summoned to a meeting at the main office. Immediately, the drive to the corporate headquarters is a journey into a new and unwelcome reality. The red Phone 50, the very same truck that had been his private sanctuary and the source of his current predicament, now feels like a cage. The empty cigarette lighter socket seems to mock him, a small, dark reminder of his miscalculation. He rehearses his explanation in his mind, trying to formulate the words that will make them understand. He wasn't trying to cause harm. He wasn't a disgruntled employee or a saboteur. He just wanted a little privacy. He clings to the hope that his years of dedicated service, his flawless professional record, will count for something, that this can be smoothed over as an unfortunate but understandable mistake. The meeting is brief. It takes place in a sterile, impersonal conference room, the air thick with a quiet, corporate gravity. He is not met with a barrage of questions or a demand for an explanation. The decision, it seems, has already been made. His supervisor, along with a representative from Human Resources, lays out the situation in stark, simple terms. The company has been contacted by the Federal Communications Commission. They have been informed that a company vehicle, his vehicle, was found to be the source of a powerful signal interference that disrupted the navigation systems at Newark Liberty International Airport. The words hang in the air, their weight far heavier than he had anticipated. It is one thing to have interfered with the system. It is another to hear that interference described in the official, unforgiving language of a federal agency. From the company's perspective, the situation is a public relations nightmare. The name of their firm, Tilcon, is now associated with a federal investigation into a serious aviation incident. The fact that his intent was not malicious is, in this context, irrelevant. The damage to the company's reputation has been done. His action, however personal its motivation, was performed in a company truck on company time. He was a representative of the firm, and his actions had brought the firm under the unwelcome scrutiny of the federal government. There is no room for negotiation. His quiet act of rebellion is seen not as a plea for privacy, but as a reckless endangerment of public safety and a profound breach of company trust. He is told that his employment is being terminated, effective immediately. He is asked to turn in his company identification, his keys, and any other corporate property. He sits in silence as the paperwork is placed in front of him, the words on the page blurring into a meaningless jumble. In the space of a 10-minute meeting, his long and stable career, the professional identity he had built over years of meticulous, dedicated work, is gone. He walks out of the building into the late afternoon sun, carrying a small cardboard box with the personal effects from his truck. The world looks the same, but his place in it has been irrevocably altered. The loss is not just financial, the sudden, terrifying prospect of unemployment. It is something deeper. It is the loss of his professional standing, the quiet pride he took in his work and his reputation. His attempt to solve a small, personal problem has resulted in a catastrophic, personal failure. But the professional fallout is only the beginning. A week later, an official letter arrives at his home. It is from the Federal Communications Commission, the crisp, formal envelope, a harbinger of the next chapter in his ordeal. The letter details the violation in cold, legal prose. It cites the specific federal statutes he has broken, the prohibition on the marketing, sale, or use of signal jamming devices. It describes, in technical detail, the effect of his device on the protected aviation frequency band. It is a formal, bureaucratic accounting of his transgression. And then, it details the penalty. The letter informs him that, due to the severity of the offense, particularly its impact on aviation safety, the Commission is proposing a fine of $42,500. He reads the number again and again, the digits seeming to swim on the page. It is a sum that is almost beyond his comprehension, a life-altering amount of money that represents years of savings, a significant portion of his financial security. The $100 device he had purchased online, the simple plug-and-play solution to his problem, has now accrued a cost that threatens to undo everything he has worked for. The letter does, however, offer a path forward. It is not a final judgment, but a notice of apparent liability. It gives him a chance to respond, to present his side of the story, to offer evidence in mitigation of the penalty. And so, the next phase of the fallout begins. A quiet, anxious period of communication with the federal government. He writes his response, not with the help of an expensive lawyer he cannot afford, but with the simple, honest words of a man explaining his mistake. He reiterates what he told the agent in person, that he was unaware of the device's power, that his intent was solely to protect his own privacy, and that he had cooperated fully with the investigation from the moment he was approached. He is now a man adrift, caught in the slow, grinding gears of a federal bureaucracy. The days turn into weeks, each one marked by a quiet, gnawing uncertainty. He has lost his job, and now he faces a financial penalty that feels like a mountain he can never hope to climb. His small, private search for silence has led him to this, a place of profound and anxious noise. The consequences of his actions, once invisible and unknown, have now become the central, defining reality of his life, a heavy weight that settles upon him with a quiet, crushing finality. Chapter 13. The Fine Print. The legal process unfolds not in a dramatic courtroom with impassioned speeches and a jury, but through a slow, quiet exchange of formal letters and communications. It is a world of fine print and federal statutes, a dispassionate and bureaucratic process that moves with a deliberate, grinding certainty. For Gary Bojack, this is the next stage of the fallout, a quiet battle waged not with arguments, but with carefully worded correspondence. His response to the FCC's initial notice of liability is a testament to his own methodical nature. He lays out the facts as he knows them, his tone honest and without embellishment. He describes his discomfort with the constant GPS monitoring, his search for a solution, and his ultimate purchase of the jammer. He stresses his lack of malicious intent, his complete ignorance of the device's power, and its potential to interfere with critical aviation systems. He highlights his immediate and full cooperation with the agent who approached him. His letter is not a legalistic defense, but a simple, human explanation, an appeal to reason from a man who has made a profound and deeply regrettable mistake. He sends the letter, and then he waits. The days turn into weeks, and the silence from the federal agency is a heavy, anxious presence in his life. He is a man in limbo, his financial future hanging on the decision of a faceless committee in an office building hundreds of miles away. During this time, he must navigate the more immediate and practical consequences of his job loss. He begins the difficult, humbling process of searching for new employment. His long and stable career at Tilcon, now reduced to a single, problematic line on his resume. The question of how to explain his sudden departure is a constant source of anxiety. the truth is a complex and damaging story, while anything less feels like a dishonest omission. Finally, a second, official envelope arrives. His hands are unsteady as he opens it. This is the FCC's final ruling. The letter acknowledges his response and his cooperative stance. It notes that his lack of malicious intent and his immediate assistance to their agent have been taken into consideration. These are mitigating factors, points in his favor in the cold, impartial calculus of federal law enforcement. And because of this cooperation, the letter explains, the Commission has decided to reduce the proposed penalty. The initial fine of over $40,000 is lowered. The new, final amount he is ordered to pay is $32,000. He reads the number, a strange and conflicting mix of feelings washing over him. There is a small, fleeting sense of relief. The number is lower than it could have been. His cooperation was not in vain. But this flicker of relief is quickly extinguished by the sheer, crushing weight of the figure itself. $32,000. It is an immense, almost insurmountable sum for a man who is now unemployed, his savings his only safety net. It is a debt that will shadow him for years to come, a constant, tangible reminder of his single, fateful decision to purchase a small, black box online. The disparity is almost too vast to comprehend. The device itself, the source of all this turmoil, was an object of trivial expense, a $100 gadget. Yet, its consequence, its true cost, has been magnified by a factor of more than 300. This is the unforgiving mathematics of federal regulation. The fine is not based on the cost of the device, nor is it based on the user's intent. It is based on the gravity of the offense, on the potential for harm that was created. And in the eyes of the FCC, the act of interfering with the protected frequencies used for aviation safety is an offense of the highest order. The fine print of the law is absolute. The electromagnetic spectrum is a finite, vital national resource. Its orderly use is the bedrock upon which our modern communications, our economy, and our public safety are built. The FCC's role as its guardian is one it takes with the utmost seriousness. Unlicensed, unregulated transmitters jammers are seen not as harmless privacy tools, but as a form of electronic pollution, a chaotic force that threatens the delicate balance of this invisible ecosystem. They are illegal to market, illegal to sell, and illegal to operate for any reason. Gary's personal desire for privacy, however understandable it may be on a human level, simply does not register in this legal framework. The law makes no distinction between a man who uses a jammer to avoid his boss and a criminal who uses one to disable a security system. The act itself is the violation. And when that violation spills over into the protected realm of aviation, the response is designed to be severe, to serve as a powerful deterrent, not just to the individual, but to anyone else who might consider a similar course of action. And so, Gary is left to confront the final, quiet reality of his situation. He must find a way to pay the fine, to slowly, piece by piece, settle his debt with the federal government. He must find a way to rebuild his career, to move forward from a mistake that has cost him almost everything. His search for a small corner of personal silence has resulted in this: a life filled with the loud, persistent, and anxious noise of financial and professional ruin. The story of the jammer, for him, becomes a quiet and cautionary tale, a lesson learned at an almost unbearable price. He, the engineer, the man of systems and logic, had failed to see the full scope of the system he was challenging. He had focused on the single, blinking green light of his company's tracker, without ever considering the vast, interconnected network that lay just beyond it. He had sought to create a small bubble of invisibility, and in doing so, had inadvertently made himself the most visible he had ever been. His name, now a permanent entry in a federal enforcement database. His simple, personal quest for a moment of unobserved freedom had collided with the fine print of the modern world, and the fine print had won. Chapter 14. The Echo. The incident of the red phone 50 does not simply end with a paid fine and a terminated employment contract. An event of this nature, however quietly it may have been resolved on the ground, sends a long-lasting echo through the silent, formal corridors of the aviation and security communities. A vulnerability has been exposed, a question has been asked, and the answers will go on to shape policy and protocol for years to come. In the weeks and months that follow, the case of Gary Bojack becomes a file, a data point, a case study to be analyzed in quiet, methodical debriefings. At the Federal Aviation Administration, engineers and safety experts convene to review the incident from their perspective. For them, the system worked as it should have. The ground-based augmentation system correctly identified the external interference, flagged its own data as unreliable, and seamlessly transitioned control to the older, trusted instrument landing system. At no point was an aircraft or its passengers placed in immediate danger. The protocols were sound, the controllers were prepared, and the layers of redundancy built into the national airspace system had held firm. But the incident raises a more troubling, forward-looking question. The GBAS is the future. Its precision, flexibility, and efficiency are seen as essential to managing the ever-increasing volume of global air traffic. The entire aviation industry is moving toward a greater reliance on GPS-based navigation, and this incident, this single data point from a Friday afternoon in New Jersey, has demonstrated a profound and uncomfortable truth. This future is vulnerable, and its vulnerability comes from a direction that few had seriously considered. The threat models for aviation security had traditionally focused on large-scale, sophisticated attacks. They envisioned state-sponsored actors with powerful, military-grade equipment or complex coordinated efforts to disrupt the system. But the case of the Red Phone 50 presents a new and far more insidious paradigm. The disruption was not caused by a powerful adversary, but by a single, ordinary citizen. The tool was not a piece of advanced military hardware, but a cheap, commercially available gadget purchased online for less than $100. The motive was not malice or sabotage, but a simple, personal desire for privacy. This is the echo that resonates most deeply within the security community. The incident reveals that significant, dangerous disruption to critical national infrastructure does not necessarily require a powerful enemy or a complex plot. It can be achieved, in this case, entirely by accident, by the weakest of signals, by the simplest of devices, by the most mundane of motives. This realization forces a quiet but significant shift in thinking. The perimeter of concern must be widened. The definition of a potential threat must be expanded to include not just the powerful and the malicious, but the small, the unintentional, and the ubiquitous. The FAA and the FCC begin to look at the world of consumer electronics with a new sense of caution. They see the proliferation of cheap, powerful radio transmitters, the ease with which jammers and other unregulated devices can be purchased online from overseas suppliers. They see a world in which the ability to create electronic chaos is no longer the exclusive domain of governments and specialized engineers, but is now available to anyone with a credit card and a mailbox. This is a democratized threat, a problem that is as vast and difficult to police as the internet itself. The case file of Gary Bojack becomes a key piece of evidence in arguments for stricter enforcement of the laws against signal jammers. It is used as a stark, real-world example in bulletins and advisories sent out to law enforcement agencies and critical infrastructure operators across the country. The story of the Newark disruption serves as a potent, cautionary tale, a clear demonstration of the potential for harm that these small devices represent. It helps to educate a generation of security professionals about a threat that had, until now, been largely theoretical. For the company, Tilcon, the echo of the incident is a more immediate and painful one. They are forced to conduct their own internal review, to answer difficult questions from federal investigators about their policies and procedures. The incident exposes a gap in their own corporate security. Their fleet management system, implemented to increase efficiency and oversight, had inadvertently created the very motivation for its own circumvention. They, like the FAA, are forced to confront the human element in their technological systems. A system that is perceived as overly intrusive by employees may, in fact, create new and unforeseen security risks as those employees seek ways to push back against it. The company quietly revises its policies, introducing clearer language about the prohibition of any and all signal-interfering devices in their vehicles. The trust that was broken must now be replaced with explicit, written rules. And so, the quiet actions of one man, driven by a simple desire to be left alone, ripple outward, creating change in ways he could never have imagined. His personal story is stripped of its human detail, its emotional context, and is transformed into a sanitized set of lessons learned. He becomes an anonymous archetype: the employee, his phone 50, the vehicle, his jammer, the device. He is no longer a person, but a problem statement. The incident serves as a powerful reminder to a world that is becoming ever more reliant on invisible systems. The foundations of our modern, hyper-connected society are built upon the orderly, predictable behavior of electromagnetic waves. We have created a world of breathtaking complexity, a world that depends on the flawless functioning of systems that are, by their very nature, fragile. The echo of the Newark jammer is a quiet, persistent warning that the most significant threats to these systems do not always announce themselves with a roar. Sometimes they arrive with the soft, electronic hum of a small black box, a simple tool designed for a simple purpose that accidentally brushes up against a world of complexity it was never designed to understand. It is a reminder that in our search for perfect order and efficiency, we must never forget the unpredictable and often powerful human element that lies at the heart of it all. Chapter 15: A World Unseen. We return, in the end, to the image from the beginning, the invisible ocean. It is still there, its silent, ceaseless currents flowing through our world, humming with the quiet, orderly, and uninterrupted flow of information. The GPS satellites continue their lonely, sunlit dance in the high orbital paths, their atomic clocks marking the passage of time with a precision that borders on the absolute. On the ground, the systems we have built upon their faint whispers continue to operate with a seamless and largely unquestioned reliability. The story of Gary Bojack, of the red phone 50 and the little black box, is not a story about a grand conspiracy or a malicious plot. It is a smaller, quieter, and perhaps more resonant story about the unseen friction that exists in our modern world. It is the story of a fundamental conflict, a gentle but persistent collision between two deeply held and often opposing human values: the universal desire for privacy and the collective need for secure, functioning systems. On one side of this conflict is the individual. Gary was a man who felt the steady encroachment of a new kind of observation, a digital gaze that penetrated the quiet sanctuary of his workspace. His desire was a simple one: a wish to be unobserved, to have a small part of his day that was not measured, logged, and recorded. He sought a moment of autonomy in a world that increasingly demands transparency. His actions were not born of a desire to cause chaos, but of a simple, human instinct to draw a curtain and create a space for himself that was entirely his own. In his own quiet way, he was pushing back against a system that he felt had pushed too far into his personal domain. On the other side is the system itself, a vast, interconnected web of technologies and protocols upon which we all, in ways both large and small, depend. The GPS network is not a luxury. It is a global utility, a piece of infrastructure as vital as our power grids and our water supplies. Its integrity is paramount. The air traffic control systems that rely on it are not instruments of surveillance. They are instruments of profound safety, designed to protect the lives of millions of travelers every single day. The fleet management systems used by companies are not created out of a desire to control their employees, but out of a rational, economic need to create order and efficiency in a complex and competitive world. The story of the Newark jammer is the story of what happens when these two forces, the personal and the systemic, meet in an unexpected and unintended way. It is a demonstration of how a single, small action, taken for a simple, understandable reason, can have consequences that are vastly out of proportion to the original intent. Gary Bojack, in his search for a small measure of privacy, did not intend to become a threat to aviation safety, but the tool he chose, the crude and indiscriminate power of the signal jammer, was incapable of making such fine distinctions. It could not separate the private signal of his company's tracker from the public signal of the airport's navigation system. It simply shouted, and in its shouting, it revealed a delicate hidden connection that no one had ever truly seen before. We do not look at his story with judgment, but with a quiet sense of understanding. He is a relatable figure, a man who found himself on the uncomfortable leading edge of a question that our society is still struggling to answer. How much of our privacy are we willing to trade for the convenience and safety that these modern systems provide? Where do we draw the line between legitimate oversight and intrusive surveillance? These are not questions with easy answers. They are the quiet, foundational debates of our digital age, and they are being played out not just in the halls of government, but in the cabs of work trucks, in the offices of corporations, and in the private lives of ordinary people every single day. Gary's story is a reminder that the world is more interconnected than we can possibly imagine. The systems that surround us are not simple, linear chains of cause and effect. They are complex ecosystems, where a small change in one area can trigger a cascade of unforeseen consequences in another. He sought to sever a single, visible thread, and in doing so, he accidentally tugged on a dozen other, invisible ones, revealing the intricate and often fragile nature of the web itself. His personal quest for silence has, in the end, taught us a great deal about the nature of the noise that surrounds us. And so, the invisible ocean continues its steady, silent flow. We navigate through it every day, trusting in its currents, guided by its unseen hand. We live in a world of almost magical convenience and safety, a world built upon a foundation of delicate technological grace. The story of the Red Phone 50 is a quiet reminder that this grace is not a given. It is the product of a careful and constant balance. It is a balance between the vast, impersonal needs of our complex systems and the small, personal needs of the human beings who live within them. And it is in the quiet, unseen spaces between these two forces that the true story of our modern world is written. One signal, one decision, one quiet, human moment at a time. And so, our journey through this quiet and unseen world comes to a gentle close. We have followed the invisible threads of energy and information, from the cold, sunlit emptiness of space to a quiet industrial street in New Jersey. We have seen how a single, personal decision, born of a deeply human desire, can ripple outward, touching vast and complex systems in ways that were never intended, never foreseen. The story of Gary Bojack and his search for silence is now complete, but the quiet questions it raises linger in the air, soft and persistent, like the faint signals that surround us even now. As you settle deeper into your rest, take a moment to feel the immense and silent machinery of the world as it continues its steady, rhythmic work. Right now, as you lie here, miles above, a constellation of satellites is gliding through the darkness, each one broadcasting its precise atomic heartbeat down to the sleeping planet below. They are the silent night watchmen, the unseen guardians of our modern age, their ceaseless work ensuring that when the sun rises again, our world will awaken to the same sense of order and predictability that it knew when it fell asleep. Think of the vast, intricate dance of logistics that unfolds while we rest. On the dark, open oceans, immense container ships, guided by the pinpoint accuracy of the global positioning system, steer their precious cargo toward distant ports. On deserted highways, long-haul trucks navigate the darkness, their positions known and tracked, ensuring that the goods we will need for the coming day arrive safely and on time. In the quiet fields of the heartland, automated farm equipment, guided by these same whispers from space, may even now be at work under the moonlight, tilling the soil with a precision that human hands alone could never achieve. We are all participants in this vast, interconnected system, whether we are aware of it or not. We are all nodes in a network of unimaginable complexity, a web woven from threads of pure information. The story we have explored tonight is a gentle reminder of the delicate balance upon which this complexity rests. It is a balance between the machine and the human, between the algorithm and the soul. The systems we build in our quest for efficiency and safety are marvels of logic and order. They are designed to smooth out the rough edges of our world, to tame the unpredictable, to create a reality of seamless, frictionless motion. They are, in their own way, beautiful. But they are built to serve a world that is not always logical, a world of human beings who are driven by feelings, by instincts, and by the ancient, unshakable need for a small space to call their own. Gary's story was not one of malice, but of a quiet, human friction. He felt the gaze of the unblinking eye and sought to close it, not to hide, but simply to be. This is a feeling that is not foreign to any of us. In a world that increasingly asks us to share, to post, to update, to be constantly connected and visible, the desire for a moment of true, unobserved solitude can feel like a radical act. It is the desire to be the author of our own time, to have moments that are unrecorded, unanalyzed, and entirely our own. As you drift now towards sleep, allow yourself to find such a space. Let the external world, with its demands and its constant flow of information, begin to recede. Allow the quiet internal world of your own thoughts and dreams to come to the foreground. This is your own private, protected frequency, a space where no signal can intrude, where you are free to simply be. It is the most fundamental form of privacy, the one from which all others originate. The technologies that surround us will continue to evolve. They will become smarter, more integrated, more woven into the very fabric of our lives. And with each new innovation, we will be asked to renegotiate the quiet, unspoken contract between our personal autonomy and our collective convenience. There are no simple answers to the questions this progress will raise. There is only the need for a quiet, mindful awareness of the balances we are striking, of the trades we are making. The echo of the Newark Jammer serves as a soft but persistent reminder that our actions, however small and personal, are never truly in isolation. We live in a world of profound and unseen connections. A single stone tossed into a pond can create ripples that reach a distant shore. A single, silent decision made in the cab of a pickup truck can momentarily disrupt the intricate dance of modern aviation. This is not a cause for anxiety, but for a gentle sense of wonder, a quiet appreciation for the immense and delicate web of which we are all a part. Our world is not a simple machine, but a living ecosystem of interacting forces. It is a place where the cold logic of a satellite network can intersect with the warm, human desire for a moment of peace. The story we have shared is a testament to this beautiful and sometimes challenging complexity. It is in the understanding of this complexity, in the appreciation of these quiet, unseen connections, that we can find a deeper sense of our own place within the world. Let the rhythmic cadence of this story guide you now into a deep and restful state. Let the tale of signals and silence become a gentle lullaby, a soft and steady beat that slows your breathing and calms your mind. The systems of the world will continue their watch as you sleep, their silent electronic hum a constant promise of order. And you, in your own quiet, protected space, can now let go, secure in the knowledge that, for these next few hours, your only task is to rest, to dream, and to find your own perfect, silent path into the peace of the night. The world unseen will be there when you wake. The invisible ocean will still be flowing. But for now, there is only this moment, this quiet stillness, this gentle descent into the soft and welcoming darkness of sleep. Rest well. If you have found a measure of peace and calm in this story, we would be honored if you would subscribe to our channel. Sharing this journey with others who may be seeking a quiet space in their own lives helps our small community to grow. Thank you for listening.